Now at 5, we'll see how road crews in Joplin are working to make things safe for drivers as a new storm system rolls in. Plus, how the state of Kansas will use a federal grant to support early childhood programs. And
President Biden will meet face-to-face with Speaker McCarthy for the first time since he secured the gavel. I'm Nicole D'Antonio on Capitol Hill with the ongoing negotiations over the debt ceiling.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
One storm system is on its way out, but another one is on its way in. This is KOAM News at 5. I'm Dow Quick. We go straight to Chief Meteorologist Doug Heddy.
Yeah, we've been dealing with freezing drizzle, sleet, and snow across portions of the 4-state area, mainly from the metro south. We had very thick freezing drizzle last night, so all the roads across the metro were pretty icy. But once you got really to Pittsburgh and west, you didn't have any ice at all. And then throughout the daytime hours today, we've had sleet along and south of I-44, which is finally starting to calm down. But you can see the bands rotating through during the daytime hours for us today. Had a little thunder sleet in our southern counties, but you can still see it hanging on right through Delaware County and then Benton County up through southern parts of Berry County. So those counties will have to deal with it for the next couple hours, and then all that's going to pull out of here. But we're going to see it regenerating down through parts of Texas and then head toward us again as we go into the daytime hours tomorrow. Temperature is also cold, sitting right around 20 degrees. Of course, we'll break down your work week forecast here in just a bit. All
right, we'll catch you then. Driving in winter weather can be tough, but crews do their best to try to keep those roads clear. KOAM's Yana Hautala joins us live from Joplin's 7th and Range line.
Thanks, Dow. The city and state workers are making sure these roads stay as safe as possible for people to drive on. The City of Joplin and Missouri Department of Transportation are always monitoring for winter weather. Joplin city officials say they start planning and preparing for these events already in the summer. Timing the treatments is crucial. Both MoDOT and the City of Joplin drive around to be ready on the roads when the right time comes to start treating them.
We look at the temperature and we look at the road conditions. So as it starts getting, the idea is ideally you want to start, you don't want to put your materials out too early because it just gets knocked off the road. You want to put it out just before it starts getting slick, just before that precipitation hits.
They don't have a full crew working on right now as the amount of precipitation is not very high. Live in Joplin, I'm Yana Hautala with KOAM News.
All right, Yana, be careful out there, and thanks. City of Joplin is asking residents to nominate people for its Historic Preservation Awards. There are 3 categories. One is for the Leslie Simpson Award, which goes to an individual who's made significant contributions to historic preservation through events and outreach. There's also the Jeff and Carolina Neal Award. That's given to people involved in historic preservation development. And finally, the Murfreesburg Award. It goes to a group that made significant contributions to improving historic neighborhoods. Nominations can be made through the city's website. That's open through March 31st. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly has announced a $4 million grant to advance early childhood education statewide. The state's Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund received the grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. It'll support efforts to bolster the early childhood workforce and to conduct a study on streamlining programs to make them easier for families to navigate. The fight over the nation's debt limit is just getting started, but there could be some movement this week, with both sides agreeing to sit down and talk face-to-face for the first time. Reporter Nicole D'Antonio has details from Capitol Hill.
President Biden announced a new train tunnel project in Baltimore to replace the 150-year-old tunnel currently in use. Money for the project is coming from the $1 trillion infrastructure bill he got through Congress.
I know we can forge a path of building an economy where no one's left behind. That's what this project and others like it across the country are all about.
But House Republicans say Democratic spending has led to inflation and interest rate hikes. They want to see cuts in the next budget before they vote to raise the nation's borrowing limit in order to pay America's debts.
I want to find a reasonable and a responsible way that we can lift the debt ceiling but take control of this runaway spending.
But President Biden maintains that even just threatening to default on America's debt is harmful to the economy. He and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy will sit down to discuss this issue on Wednesday. House Republicans have been taking the lead on the negotiations, with Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell saying anything that comes from the Senate would likely just fail in the current House.
In this current situation, the debt ceiling fix, if there is one, or how it's to be dealt with, will have to come out of the House.
But some of McConnell's Senate colleagues are jumping into the fray with the House. 22 GOP senators sent this letter to President Biden saying they intend to stand by the policy that any debt ceiling raise must be matched by equal or greater spending cuts. Nicole D'Antonio, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Democrats say the Republicans have yet to say what kind of cuts they want or where they'd come from. Memphis police confirmed a sixth officer has been relieved of duty in connection with the violent encounter earlier this month between police and Tyree Nichols. 5 other officers were fired and charged with murder. The police department released video of that brutal incident on Friday. Over the weekend, protesters took to the streets in cities all across our country. More protests are scheduled for today. At least 59 people are dead, 150 others are injured after a suicide bombing inside a mosque in northwestern Pakistan. Police say that blast took place in the middle of afternoon prayers. The mosque is inside the police lines of the city and is mostly attended by law enforcement officials. Pakistan's prime minister condemned the attack and said, quote, "The entire nation and institutions are united to end terrorism." Still ahead, an aviation icon will soon be out of production.
The end of the line and the end of an era. The very last 747 rolling off the line here in Everett, Washington. We take a look back at Boeing's iconic aircraft. I'm Chris Van Cleve. That story is coming up.
And next in Health Watch, what a study shows us about a newly discovered illness called VEXAS syndrome. Topping today's Health Watch, the Biden administration wants to make it easier for more women to get free birth control. A new rule has been proposed by the Departments of Health and Human Services and Labor and Treasury. It removes a Trump-era exemption to the Affordable Care Act that allows employers to opt out for moral convictions. Employers would still be allowed to opt out for religious reasons, and a new independent pathway for those policyholders would be created for women to access contraception at no cost. A third COVID booster reduces deaths among patients with pre-existing conditions by 90%. That's the result of a study published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal. The researchers say people with multiple health conditions are much more likely to survive COVID if they have a third dose compared to people who have only 2. A recently identified illness might be more common than first thought, according to a new study. The inflammatory disorder it comes with a host of symptoms that can affect everyday life, can even lead to death. Reporter Mandy Gaither has more on VEXAS syndrome and what can be done to determine if you are suffering from it.
For years, David Adams was fighting an illness that hadn't yet been identified.
You can't fight your enemy unless your enemy has a name, right? I think they say. And that's sort of the way we felt.
Now, it does have a name, VEXAS syndrome, an inflammatory disorder caused by mutations in the UBA1 gene of blood cells and acquired later in life, according to the National Institutes of Health. It can cause painful skin rashes, pain and swelling of the ear and nose, cough and shortness of breath, joint swelling and pain, and inflammation of vessels. Patients often have fever and extreme fatigue.
That was freeing. It really was. Incredibly freeing to have the diagnosis.
A new study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association finds VEXAS syndrome is more common than previously thought. Researchers believe it affects more than 13,000 men and about 2,300 women in the U.S.
If you're an older individual with low blood counts, systemic inflammation, hasn't been able to get a diagnosis and requires steroids, we think you should go out and talk to your doctor about getting genetic testing for UBA1 and VEXAS syndrome.
Right now, there's no standard treatment for VEXAS, but the inflammation may be treated with steroids and other immunosuppressants.
Since VEXAs can affect several organs in the body, patients might need multiple doctors to help in their treatment. That could include a rheumatologist and a hematologist. A device that costs only $1 could help deal with dangerous childbirths. Researchers from London shows that doctors can print sensors onto a regular surgical glove. The glove can then help doctors determine the orientation of a fetus and gently apply pressure to help prevent obstructed labor. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, the Labor Department releases last year's statistics regarding sick days taken by workers.
Plus, we have more of a winch remix in the forecast. We're going to look at that coming up. Well, it's definitely turned out to be a very cold one for us today. Part of the area, very icy one. Others, just cold, but you can look at our Indigo Sky Casino and Resort Tower Cam. You can see the parking lot is iced over. That is in Seneca, Missouri. Really, all the issues on the roads have been from about Joplin south over the past 24 hours or so. Let's go outside now. We've had bands of light snow that have whipped through the metro earlier today, but most of the action has been along and south of I-44, and there's been a ton of sleet, especially in our southern counties, and still ongoing now, but slowly starting to push out of the region. But this is blue, this is purple, so the radar is really picking up on sleet once you get to Fayetteville. And then in the blue here is kind of a snow-sleet mix, so southern parts of Delaware County into Benton County, and still parts of McDonald County, and then over into Berry County. But these counties, Berry, McDonald, even parts of Newton County, Delaware County, have picked up some areas close to an inch of sleet, which is causing a lot of issues on the roadways in our far southern counties. If you live north of I-44, you're looking pretty good. All right, so this system's gonna start to regenerate across central Texas late tonight and then throw up another band toward us that will affect us as we go through the daytime hours tomorrow. Look at the temps, 20, 21, so it's cold. It's a little breezy out there as well. We have these northerly winds at about 10 to 15, so of course that makes it feel colder than what it actually is. So this gives us wind chill factors. It feels like 8 in Webb City, 8 in Anderson, 10 in Pittsburgh, 12 in Parsons. So if you are going to be out tonight, make sure you bundle up and also be careful on the roads if you live in our southern counties. We're going to drop back into the mid-teens for overnight lows, but those wind chill factors are going to be down there. All right, let's go through time. Just clouds tonight, mid-teens. As we get into the morning hours tomorrow, clouds thicken up. And then here's 10 a.m. Snow and sleet increasing again across northeastern Oklahoma. Pushes in. Could be pretty heavy at times. Here's 11:30. A little farther north could affect Pittsburgh, Lamar, back towards Chatopa, and then everybody south of I-44, and then starts to push out of here early afternoon. So it's only a few hours of this, but the temperatures are cold, the roads are cold, so we could have some minor impacts on the roadways as we go into tomorrow afternoon. We're going to keep the impacts low, but we'll keep our eyes on that. We'll make it a moderate impact on wind because, of course, that drops those wind chill factors. So look at our wind chill factors. The way it's going to feel by morning, about 3 to 5 degrees. As we get through the daytime hours tomorrow, still wind chill factors only about 10 to 15 degrees. Here's your day planner. Starting cloudy, burst of sleet and snow midday, and then ending it cloudy with a high temp of only 24 degrees. We're going to make it an alert day because we are going to have some slippery roads. 38 on Wednesday, rain returns late in the day, and then again another wintry mix Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Again, mainly our southern counties, but a lot to watch over the next few days.
And I know you will be watching it.
Absolutely.
And keeping us informed. Thanks, Doug. Coming up, we're going to meet some of the people behind the production of the very last Boeing 747. First, though, we honor a local veteran. Billy Dean Hughes served in the U.S. Navy from 1951 to 1955. The Arcadia, Kansas native was stationed in Korea. And we salute Radioman Petty Officer 3rd Class Billy Dean Hughes, a 4-state hero. You can learn about lots of other heroes from all across this area. You can also submit a hero of your own anytime, and we encourage you to do so. Just go to our website. Of course, that's KOAMnewsnow.com. Topping today's Consumer Watch, a record number of Americans missed work last year because of illnesses. New data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics shows almost 19 million absences were reported last year. That's about 1.5 million sick Americans who missed work each month. According to the labor statistics data, monthly absences haven't fallen below 1 million since November of 2019, before the pandemic began. The National Retail Federation predicts consumers will spend nearly $26 billion this Valentine's Day. That's a $2 billion increase from last year. More than half of those surveyed say they'll spend nearly $200 on their sweetheart or loved ones. The top three gifts are candy, greeting cards, and of course those flowers. The Chiefs are heading to the Super Bowl in less than 2 weeks. Maybe you've heard. If you're planning to host a party, there are some food items that won't break the bank. Chicken wings actually cost 20% less than last year. That's due to a better supply. In January of 2022, a pound of wings was about $3.33. This year, the price is $2.65. Another affordable option right now is that guacamole you see there. Avocado prices also down 20% from last year. One red, one green, just like the teams. The very last Boeing 747 will be delivered tomorrow for use as a cargo plane. For more than 50 years, the 747 has been praised for broadening air travel and bridging wide distances. Reporter Chris Van Cleve went to the plant north of Seattle that built the final 747 and met some of the people who've spent generations working on it.
Pan Am will bring you the world's first 747.
Even before Boeing's 747 flew its first passengers back in 1970, the world knew this was something special.
So what do you think? Still intimidating.
And from day one, the Anderson family has quite literally had their hands on nearly every single 747 built, working on the production line in Everett, Washington. Andy Anderson was a supervisor on the prototype. His son Vic is now a lead mechanic on the last one, and about 875 before it.
He turned them on, and I'll be turning them off. It means a lot to our family, really.
We were there in December as Vic took his dad to see the final assembly of the final Queen of the Skies, just days before it rolled off the line, took its first test flight, and got bathed in about 120 gallons of paint ahead of its final delivery tomorrow.
I'm going to miss it. I already miss it.
Back in 1969, Andy Anderson was back in this same plant as they built the world's first jumbo jet, twice the size of the largest airliner to date.
It crossed everybody's mind whether it was going to get off the ground or not.
When you saw that first one fly, what went through your mind?
It gave you goosebumps.
And for more than 5 decades, its 4 engines have carried millions of travelers, 6 presidents, and even the space shuttle across the country and around the world. But newer, more fuel-efficient planes with 2 engines are bringing about the end of the 747. Boeing engineers thought this mid-century engineering marvel would only fly passengers for a decade before supersonic planes like the Concorde became the norm. They designed the 747 to live on as a freighter, which is how it got that iconic hump, allowing for a nose that could open to load cargo. So it's fitting the final 747 is a freighter that'll be delivering for years to come. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News in Everett, Washington.
A final check of the forecast next. Up next on the CBS Evening News, parents react to new security measures at a Virginia school where a 6-year-old shot his teacher. Then on KOAM News at 6, authorities in Knoll, Missouri investigate the death of a person found after a shed fire. Plus, we're going to have more on efforts to keep Joplin's roads safe, and we're going to hear from the Kansas City Chiefs after they punched their tickets to the Super Bowl last night. Yeah, 3rd time in 4 years. Stay with us, CBS Evening News, and then KOAM News at 6. I know we want to talk about the Chiefs, but we have to talk about the weather.
Yeah, we do. We got 2 weeks to talk about the
Yes,
Chiefs.
we do.
So, yeah, tonight we still have some light sleet in our far southern counties, but most of us are going to be quiet tonight. We do get another batch that lasts 3 or 4 hours tomorrow. So, of course, another day of a wintry mix and temperatures only into the 20s.
Thanks for joining us. CBS Evening News is next. And of course, we're going to be right back here for KOAM News at 6. We'll see you then. Let's make it a great evening.